Good morning, good morning, and thank you for joining me on another episode of the Roundtable Talk Show. I am so excited. This year has been going wonderful. Our shows have been going wonderful, and our guests are getting more and more interesting every day. So I definitely know that this is a show that you do not want to miss. And there's someone in your network, your friends, your family, they don't want to miss the show at all. So if you don't share it with them, how will they know? I always say, friends don't let friends miss out on the Roundtable Talk Show. So while you're introducing the show to your network, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our first guest, Dr. Shakina Judah. Dr. Shakina is a returning guest. We learned so much from her before. Dr. Shakina offers soul purpose sessions and sound healing sessions for those who are ready to deepen their inner work. She has worked in the clinical community for over 25 years. Dr. Shakina received her bachelor's degree in sociology and human development and master's degree in social service and counseling from California State University, USA. She earned her doctorate in marriage and family therapy from North Central University, and she is joining us again today. Good morning, Dr. Shakina. How are you?
Good morning. It's beautiful to be here. Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. It's always a pleasure to have you. I love your smile, your background, your energy, the stories that you tell. For those of us who missed the last time you were on the show, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you and what do you do?
Well, I am a licensed psychotherapist. I'm based in the East Bay of California. And as you said before, I offer psychotherapy sessions specifically for soul purpose work. So I would consider myself a spiritual psychotherapist. And I also offer soul purpose workshops that are online. Those happen on Fridays at 11 a.m. And I've written a couple of books, In the Beginning 1 and 2, and also I've written a book called The Clinician's Guide to Spiritual Emergence. And during our last talk, I did talk about the fact that I had a spiritual emergence about 30 years ago. And I can talk more about that as we progress. I can share
I
more.
want to hear about it right now.
Right
Let's
now?
hear about it. Yes.
All
It's getting
right.
good.
Okay. So 30 years ago, I had something called a spiritual emergence, and people call it different things. But I ended up hospitalized because I didn't know what was happening to me. No one around me knew what was happening to me. What I was having was this sort of psychic awakening, and I was getting all of these things happening to me, and they were kind of scary. I ended up in the hospital and medicated. And then what I had to do was sort of get out of that system and find who I was, truly who I was, and why that experience had happened to me. And so after 30 plus years of work on myself and work with clients, now I'm offering that specialized session where people can come to me who are having a spiritual awakening experience. Some people are really excited about it and they're very conscious while they're doing it. And other people get really frightened about what's happening. They don't understand it. So I work with both types of clients.
So, what typically happens? How do you know that you're having this spiritual awakening?
Well, typically a spiritual awakening experience will be triggered by certain things. There are two types of triggers. One is sort of spontaneous. So if you're meditating or you're just experiencing something that's very beautiful, sometimes a spiritual emergence can start to emerge, and people are more aware of their environment. They're more sensitive. They may get information from God or from their spirit guides, and that's one form. The other form typically happens when someone's very stressed. They're going through a lot of transitions. They may be grieving the loss of many things in their lives. Um, and that's actually what's triggered mine, is I had a lot of stress in my life at that time. And I just started to fall apart. I started not being able to function well, started having a lot of memories. If people believe in past lives, those things were starting to come up. I was feeling things, sensing things, remembering things. Typically, when you're in a spiritual emergence experience, you may start smelling things that trigger other memories. a multitude of things can happen.
Oh, wow. Dr. Shakina, I'm going to come back to you, but I want to go ahead and introduce our next guest, Miss Gina Swire. Gina is a self-love mentor and manifesting queen on a global mission to help a billion women fall madly in love with themselves. After struggling with her own self-worth and image issues, Gina quit her career as a plus-size model at the height of her fame in order to embark on her own journey of transformation. Today, she travels the world leading live workshops, hosting retreats, coaching private clients, and speaking on stages from Burning Man to Bali. Her first book, P.S. I Love Me, is soon to be published. She inspires women everywhere to love themselves and love their lives. Good morning, Gina. How are you?
Well, good evening, actually, from Bali. And thank you so much for having me. And wow, I'm super honored to be around you amazing women. Thank you.
You are so welcome. Thank you for joining us, Bali. I feel like, Julia Roberts, Eat, Pray, Love, or I think that was the name of the movie. It just has a certain feel to it. How does it feel out there to you?
Yeah, it's very much like that, to be honest. And a lot of people come on an eat, pray, love quest uh, to find spirituality and to find love and find themselves and meditate. And there's a lot of that. Yeah.
Yes. But when I look at you, Gina, I would never assume or guess that you were a plus size model. I think there are many millions of women who would love to have your figure.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, well, a lot of people say that to me. And when I was modeling in the height of my modeling, I was a little bit bigger,
Mhm,
probably a dress size to two dress sizes bigger, but not that much.
mhm,
Um, and yeah, it was a very interesting industry to be in
mhm,
because obviously the typical model story is about not being able to eat and being told to be skinny. And I was actually having the opposite. So my agent and my clients were saying, you look like you've lost weight. And I'm like, nope, nope, I'm just wearing black. It's not that. So it was the complete opposite. And I think I didn't really realize at the time how damaging it is. It's pretty much the same as being asked to be skinny
mhm,
is to be asked to put on weight. Like basically you're not good enough as you are. You need to do different. And
mhm,
so I didn't feel allowed to feel bad about that because everyone around me was saying, you've got the best job ever. You get all this and you get to eat. But
mhm.
actually I was like, I'm being rejected as I am, you
Yes,
know? So
yes.
it's a weird one.
No, it's very interesting. I love learning about people's stories and their journeys. But when we think of models, I mean, at least I do, I think of people who love themselves. Like that's just, you have to be a model. I mean, if you love your, you have to love yourself. So I wouldn't think you would go from modeling to self-love.
Yeah. Well, newsflash, most models, or I'll speak for the models that I was around, which was a lot. I lived between LA and New York and London and sometimes in different European cities. And yeah, self-love was not a big player in the field, let me
Mhm,
tell you.
mhm,
And I am not surprised that it's not it's not like a secret that models and celebrities and actors and actresses kill themselves. You know,
mhm,
how many times is that in the media? And I can see why that happens because actually I've always been quite solid and quite, have a loving family and loving friends and had a very kind of privileged upbringing and had a lot of good things in my life and that really took me into some dark places
mhm,
because I was constantly just being told I wasn't good enough from all
mhm,
the directions, and beauty when you're in the modeling industry, beauty is not really a thing because everybody is beautiful. Like,
mhm,
what else have you got? Like,
mhm,
what else are you bringing to the table? Yeah, so it was a weird industry to be in for a long time, and plus size modeling is way more gentle than runway modeling and all of that. But for me personally, in my home life, I grew up kind of in yo-yo diet household culture. And so I always wanted to be skinny, and I never was. I was always curvy and tall and kind of muscly and, chunky, I would say is the word. I was always chunky. And when I went into modeling, at first I was trying to be like a standard model, like a slim model. And I used to get sent home every week. I'd be getting sent home and not paid. And I was just like, oh. And then when I went into plus size modeling, all my clients were just saying, "Ooh, if you were just a little bit bigger, then we'd book you for this huge money job." And I was like, oh, okay. But then in my home life, all of my friends were all 2-3 dress sizes smaller than me. And that's what I wanted. So I wanted to be bigger for that and smaller for that. And I was just like, well, who am I? This isn't a fit for anything. And that became the problem right there.
Yes. I want to talk about that a little bit more, Gina. And I can see where this conversation is going. Self-love, open it up, and cosmetics often determine how we feel about ourselves. I want to go ahead and introduce our next guest, Miss Koko Hayashi. She is the founder at Koko Face Yoga and Mirai Clinical. Mirai Clinical manufactures and distributes cosmetics that fuse traditional Japanese ingredients with advanced science to provide a range of personal care products in the United States. Good morning, Koko. How are you?
Hi everyone.
Hi, I love your energy.
Yeah, I'm a YouTuber, so I'm very used to doing this presentation thing. Yeah. So my name is Koko. I'm from Japan. 6 years ago, I moved to the United States by myself to chase my American dream. So I have mainly two businesses. One is Mirai Clinical, which we offer deodorizing solutions for body odor associated with aging. Aging changed many things like voice change, skin change, hair change, and including body odor. And our Japanese key ingredient, do you know what this is?
I do not. It looks like a tomato to me.
I know, everyone says this looks tomato, but it's not. It's a persimmon.
Oh, wow. See, I should recognize persimmons. I've heard of persimmons.
This is plastic. It's not
Right.
real one, but yeah, now season is ending right now, but in October, December was a season. Only once a year. Anyway, we harvest the Japanese persimmon ingredients extract and use it as a deodorizing ingredients to eliminate all kinds of body odor, including the specific body odor associated with aging, and put it all the products like some household items, body care items, hair shampoo, or so many things. So that's e-commerce. I'm an entrepreneur. The other business is face yoga. Has anyone heard the word face yoga? Oh, doctor? Oh yeah, Gina too.
I have not.
Oh no?
No. What is face yoga?
Face yoga is a great natural solution to regain or maintain your youthful appearance. Yeah, you have to do this one. Yeah, I always do this. We wake up sleeping muscle in the face to lift up the face and relax overworking muscle for wrinkle reduction. AKA, it can be natural alternative to Botox or plastic surgery. Yeah, I've told my client includes celebrity like Kim Kardashian and featured at Shark Tank and voted #1 yoga class at the Yoga Expo LA last year. It hasn't happened, not last year, 2019, because 2020 was kind of, yeah, challenging. Yeah,
Yes.
that's my two businesses. I'm an entrepreneur. Yeah.
I love it. Why these businesses? Why are you so passionate? I mean, your skin looks amazing.
Oh, thank you. I just did the makeup and lighting, but yeah, I'm 41 years old right now, but this is me when I was 31, much chubbier.
Yes.
But body is always same. Gina said yo-yo diet. I used to do yo-yo diet when I was a kid, but other than that, Japanese do not really easily gain weight or lose weight. It's always same. Do you have any Japanese people around you? No?
No, I don't. I got to
Yeah.
talk to them and ask them. I just have people on social media. I need that
Oh.
gene. How do I get that gene in my body?
I don't know. It's just genetics, but I don't really usually easily gain weight or lose weight. It's always same. But face was much chubbier. But I was doing lots of face exercise like this. There's so many things that I teach. I even teach doctors. We have a instructor certification for medical professionals as well. Yeah.
Well, I
So,
need some techniques. I want my face to, have face yoga too. What are some of the techniques?
there are many techniques, but what's your concern?
I don't have any concerns. I love my face. I just want to keep it like this.
Okay, yeah.
I
So
love
the
me, Gina.
most important thing among face yoga is tongue posture. Has anyone heard where your tongue should be when your face is resting? Right now, your face is not doing anything, just listening. So your face is resting face posture. Do you
Yes.
know where should your tongue should be?
It should be resting.
Yes, but where? There are three options. Where's my tongue? Oh. So this is upper teeth, and tongue option 1 is touching on the upper palate. Option 2 is in the middle. Option 3 is on the bottom.
Mm-hmm. So
Where
should
is
it be option 3?
Option 3. What about
Option
Dr.
3.
Shakina?
Dr. Shakina said 1.
Wow.
Dr. Shakina's right.
Yes, because we have a doctor. Yeah.
Hey, Dr. Shakina.
Yes. But if you don't really know much about the tongue posture, probably it's like this. Tongue is touching on the palate. This is very, very common. But the super correct tongue posture is this, like sucking on the palate. Not this, not but
Okay, but why? Why?
Because when the tongue is touching on the palate, this is your palate, and then this is gonna lift up your maxilla bone. The entire, like a center of the face is gonna be lifted. So your face is gonna be lifted. Your cheekbones are gonna be lifted. And if the tongue is not resting here, it's not pressing up, and it's here, it's gonna bring everything down. And then you get that cheekbone is gonna melt down, nasolabial, everything is gonna be saggy. That's
Wow, you are interesting. You are hilarious. Did you take these classes when you were modeling, Gina? Did you have to do the tongue and all this other stuff?
Not the tongue, but there was a bit of like if you wanted to look a bit sexy, you would say chocolate.
I gotta learn that one. I never know that. Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, tips from the trade.
That is sexy. I like that. Now, Gina, when you were going through this transition, did you feel that you had a spiritual awakening?
Absolutely. Yeah. So when Dr. Shakina was talking, I was like, wow, yeah, spiritual emergence. Yeah, that's exactly what happened to me. I think I was living in New York. I was very busy, and I was on the biggest job, the biggest kind of like publicity and money job of my career. And it had been something I'd been manifesting for a long time because I was really into the laws of attraction. And then I got the job and I was on the set, and I remember just being stood there and having an out of body experience for the second time in my life, and just looking at my physical body, and everyone was going around, and it was like I was in slow-mo and everyone else was like blah, blah, blah. And I just looked at myself and I was like, nope, no, we're done. And then I came back into my body. It was very simple, it was very calm. Came back into my body, and I just got up and walked out. And I just knew it was like, it's not like I want to quit modeling, or I think I should, or maybe I might. It was already done. Mm-hmm. And I just left that night. I left New York. I came back to Manchester, went back to Manchester in England, bought a house. And I literally just sat in my house for pretty much 9 months and just didn't have any guide or any mentor. I didn't even know that was a thing back then, but I just knew not to numb out anymore. I'd been numbing myself with food, alcohol, men, pretty much anything I can get my hands on, shopping, travel, busyness, overworking, over partying, after parties, all the things, loads of fun. I was like fun time Frankie. And I literally just quit everything. All my friends went vegan, went sober, quit everything that I could quit without dying. And I didn't really know what I was doing. I just knew I was doing it. And then I got on my lounge floor in my house with no furniture yet and just felt the depth of the pain that I didn't even know what it was. I just felt so much pain. I was just sobbing on my floor, begging for a sign from I didn't even know what. And I got the signs and I heard the profound voice that you were talking about. And it was so simple, but it just hit the nail on the head. And the rest was history, kind of, with a few ebbs and flows, you know.
Wow. Dr.
Yeah.
Shakina, when you hear Gina share her story, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think she had an out-of-body experience initially that helped her connect to her higher self for sure. And you described floating above your body. And then her total amazing treatment of herself, of just being in her home for 9 months and just letting it happen without any guidance, is completely honorable and amazing, Gina. So she just basically surrendered to what was happening, and then she listened to her higher self, her guide, her god or her goddess, whatever was coming through, and she surrendered. And that's really what the process entails, is it's surrendering to whatever's going on. And as a psychotherapist, I always remind people, even when they're not in a spiritual emergence, to surrender to whatever they're feeling in the moment. So we're in a collective grief cycle right now. Our whole world is in grief. And so with the stages of grieving, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance, each of those stages is going to bring you some things that are coming up that need to be viewed, right? They need to be felt. And allowing those to happen is the ultimate point to the process.
Absolutely. Now, Gina, when you said you had this experience, you let go of this whole plethora list of things, but were you then guided to pick up other things? Like all of a sudden, it's like we want to eat better, we want to drink more water, we want to be out in nature, and these are just things that we pick up, things that we are guided to do, and maybe things that we weren't as into before. Did that happen to you?
Absolutely. Yeah. So once I scraped myself off my lounge floor, I I remember going up to I'd heard this voice that had simply just said, you don't need to change. That was it. And I just got it. I was like, oh my God, I've spent my whole life trying to be more this, less that, more tall, less tall, more fat, more thin, more intelligent, more bimbo-ish, like all these different things that I've been trying to do. For what? I don't even know now. But it was like my whole energy was going to trying to change. And I went upstairs to my clothes that were all over my lounge floor, spare bedroom floor, because I didn't have a wardrobe yet. And I was just picking things. I was like, nope, yes, no. And I wasn't even looking at them, wasn't trying them on. I was just like feeling the energy of the clothing and seeing if it aligned to where I was going, which I didn't know. That wasn't a thing, you know, it was like a new thing. I was like, yes, no, no, no. I just threw everything out. And then that same night, I remember literally taking my clothes off. This was in winter in England, and going outside and howling at the moon.
Oh, wow.
Which now, I mean, I live in Bali and we howl at the moon all the time. But then that was not a thing in Manchester in England. We didn't howl at the moon. We didn't even look at the moon. We didn't know about moon phases, you know? So there was these things that came in. Also, like you said, I could not bear anything that wasn't organic in my house, from like hand wash to food to clothing, like nothing, everything had to be organic and pure, which was all new and it was amazing. Loved it.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Coco, I see you nodding your head and agreeing with Gina sharing her story. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was wondering what makes you like suddenly feel like you have to use organic? Everything has to be organic?
Yeah. I mean, I've always liked organic things. I've always liked to buy the best thing I can find, but it was like literally, if it's not organic, it's gone. And before I would choose organic food, but if I went somewhere and it wasn't organic, then I would still eat it. It'd be fine. But then I was just like, no, I
Cool.
cannot.
So if you eat something not organic, you feel no shares or something?
Yeah, I was just like, I would rather starve than eat something that's not organic. That's how I felt then.
How do you feel now?
Yeah, so I did the whole very vegan, very strict, massive morning. My morning routine took me all day back then. And I was cooking like everything from scratch, and I was super like on it. Got really into yoga and meditation, and all these things were coming in. And then I actually went off to India and trained in all these things. And I was really like very, very strict, but I wanted to be like that, felt good to me. And then that was a 2-year cycle. And then I went to Burning Man and had this crazy experience that I was rejecting so much. I was like, no, no alcohol, no drugs, no this, no, no. And then I was like, oh, but yes. I like re-met my old fun time Frankie self for one night, but in a new context of where I was consciously choosing it, not from a place of numbing, from this new, like, from a place of love. Like I was deeply in love with myself, with life, with my partner, with everything. Like everything was love. And before, everything was lonely and miserable and numbing and painful and meh. And so, yeah, I just was like, oh, wait, yeah, I can do anything consciously and it is medicine. That's what I learned that night at Burning Man. I was like, whatever you do consciously, it's always medicine.
Absolutely. Dr. Shakina, is this a typical experience for the people you work with?
Well, it is pretty typical. I see Gina as really discovering the goddess within her God power within her own self. She went through a whole discernment stage where she was just letting go of what wasn't her. And then when she went to Burning Man, she was around other semi-spiritual people, which is very different from the other people she was hanging out with. So she was able to just create, like she described, using her own goddess energy.
Do you feel that people go to the extremes? Like maybe they're doing too much drugs, too many alcohol, too many men, and then all of a sudden they want to be a nun who's dry all the time. And then they go, you know what? Wait a minute. It's okay if I have a glass of wine every now and then, and try to find the balance between it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Balance is a key to everything. And that's why I ended up in the hospital, because I didn't have enough balance in my life. And I think people often do end up, completely devastated when they're having a spiritual emergence because they don't know what balance is.
So how do they find that balance?
Well, like Gina said, she stopped eating foods that were harming her body. She started paying attention to her emotions and her experiences. She found people that supported her. That's really how to do it.
Yes, excellent. Koko, now you are a female business owner, and
Yes.
so often it is difficult as females for us to go into this male-dominated industry. How was that for you personally?
It's been challenging, especially in Japan. All the businesses are dominated by men. In USA, it's more female friendly, and I decided to take advantage being female plus minority race. Because nowadays lots of organizations and communities, they want to encourage female And plus, if you're a minority, you get double advantage. It's not disadvantage. It's an advantage. So I use that two advantages to participate in some business pitch contest, or get scholarship or grant or some media opportunity. Media in general wants to work with the diversity people. So that's why I think I was able to do so many things since I moved to this country. But I couldn't have done this in Japan.
How was your family? Were they supportive? Are they still in Japan?
They're still in Japan, but they don't really know much about what's going on about me, because what I'm doing is totally different from what they can imagine. So they just let me, okay, good luck.
Mm-hmm. But it just seems in 2021 that owning a business, being a business owner, would be totally different than what they can imagine. It would seem that we have come, far past that.
Yeah, it's luckily, thankfully, my business is e-commerce and everything is online. The soap business is e-commerce originally, and my face yoga was 50% in person, 50% online, but now everything 100% online. So we switched because we had to. So it's going very well. But I understand there are many people who are suffering. But I think this is an opportunity, timing for us to switch. We have to adapt ourselves to new environment.
Absolutely. Now, Gina, you work with clients to help them love themselves. And again, it seems that people don't always know that they're not loving themselves. So how do they find a coach or a consultant or someone to work with to say, hey, help me love me?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. And by the way, is everyone putting the tongue in the top of the mouth now?
Yes.
Yep, got it. Got that one, Koko. Thank you for the tip. Yeah, so I personally, back in the day, didn't think I didn't love myself, but now I've realized I didn't, or I did to that level, but there's so much more available, just like anything. And so with my clients, I think they generally just feel off, like they feel one of the things that a lot of my now clients say is when they hear me saying, I kind of had it all, but I felt guilty because I didn't feel good, but I'm not allowed to not feel good because I'm privileged and I have all these things and have people that love me and money and clothes and all the things, but I just don't feel good and I feel guilty for that. And a lot of my clients feel the same. And yeah, so I kind of say, if you're not getting the results you want in the areas you want, then take a look at your self-love. And so a lot of my clients come in because I do different workshops about money, because I think money and self-love are really heavily related. And I do workshops around self-talk, which they're like my highest, the ones with the most amount of people that come to them, because I think everyone has that little mean girl or mean guy voice. And so, yeah, they come in from all different ways, but I think it's very important to have some outside view and outside perspective, because we all have massive blind spots and we can't see our patterns. We can't see what we're doing. We can't see what we're missing. We don't know what we don't know. Yeah, so anytime people come to me and even just have one session or be in a community on a Zoom call like this with a bunch of women, they're like, oh my God, I feel amazing. And I'm like, that's just a little tiny tip of the iceberg. There's so much more, So I think, yeah, being in that non-judgmental space, or even just sitting one-to-one with me and me just listening and being like, yep, I had that too. Yep. That, I mean, I had one lady today, a brand new client, and she was like, I'm so fucked up. I'm so broken. I could never be fixed. Like, I'm way more broken than you. Oh my God. And people love to just say like how much worse they are than everyone, but they never are, It's like we all have the same few things that we struggle with different stories. And just even saying that to someone and they're like, wait, you don't think I'm weird? wait, you're not like hating me for what I'm saying? I'm like, no, tell me more. And they're like, oh, I feel so seen and so heard. Yeah. So it's just a beautiful process, and it helps with everything, every element of life.
No, you
I'm
mentioned every element, Gina. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I tend to. Um, Usually, when I hear that is when we talk about relationships, especially with women, and they say, "Oh, I'd like to get married. I'd like to settle down. I'd like to find a mate." And people will say, "Well, before you do all of that, you have to love yourself. You have to. It's like a blanket overall. Just love yourself, and then the man will appear." But how is it that? Have you heard that? Let me just ask that question.
Oh yeah, I've heard that a lot. Yeah.
But I don't understand that. Just because you want to have someone else doesn't mean you don't love yourself. And just because you love yourself doesn't mean this mate will magically appear.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And whenever I hear people saying that, I'm like, not strictly true. Sometimes people need that person to hold them in a container, and by them showing them love, like for example, one of my newer clients, I've only been working with her for a short amount of time. When we met probably 8 weeks ago, she had every single mirror in her house covered because she couldn't look at herself because she hated the way she looked so much. And even like 2 sessions in, she was like uncovering the mirrors, and she's like, I'm not great, but I'm a bit better. And I was like, great, that's fine by me. And then immediately she met a guy asked to take her out, and she was like, I'm not going, but just to let you know, a guy's asked me out. And I was like, oh, do whatever you want. And then, within 6 weeks, she's like madly in love, and he's madly in love, and he's saying things to her like, look in the mirror and just see what I see. Like, he's guiding her in this beautiful way, not like you're gorgeous, because how many women are being told they're gorgeous by a million people, but if there's one person in their whole life that said you're ugly, they just focus on that. So this man, like, he's not in personal development or any kind of teacher as such, but I'm like, he's just a natural teacher because he's asking her to just see her own beauty. And I was like, that's so beautiful and
Yes.
so needed, Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Dr. Shakina, we're talking about self-love. Do you feel that it's an issue that brings people towards this spiritual?
Well, sometimes when people are in a lot of distress, they're not liking themselves very much, and they do things like drugs and alcohol, or don't eat well, or don't sleep well, or get into unhealthy relationships. So self-love is really a part of recovery and finding one's higher self, or higher purpose or mission in life. And that's really what soul purpose sessions do, is they help people find their soul mission or purpose. And Gina has definitely found it. And I think Koko has too. Yeah, they're
Yes.
giving their mission to the world, their gift.
Yes. When you work with your clients, you help them find their soul purpose, but maybe they didn't know they were looking for their purpose. Maybe they just felt like they were wandering in the desert and they have no idea where to go, what to do, who they are. Too often we let go of things, but we don't absolutely sure, we don't know for sure what to pick up or what to do next. Like Gina said, she went through this 2-year period in which she went to one extreme only to come back. Do you see that, Dr. Shakina?
Absolutely. Well, the whole journey is the hero's journey, is what we call it. So, a person may come in not knowing they want to know about their soul purpose, but they're just feeling really bad. And it takes the hero's journey and the whole process of going through that to find who they really are. And people find that in many different ways. Some people quit their job, some people leave their marriage, some people start a new business, some people, completely change their diet. It's really helping the clients tune into who they really are, listening to their own gut instincts, and sitting with literally whatever comes up. And it can be very scary to do that. And therapy is not always fun.
I can imagine. That's why I don't go to therapy. I don't want to deal with all those things that I probably shouldn't deal with. I'll talk to people on the Roundtable Talk Show. That's my therapy. Koko,
Yes.
for you being an entrepreneur, a female, a business owner. How did you find that this was your purpose?
I'm still trying to figure out, but I have a goal. I would like to be angel investor in the future, which means I wanna support young small business owners succeed their business financially and from knowledge side as well. So that's my goal. So in order to achieve the goal, I'm surrounded by those people who I admire, I look up to, and I'm doing my business so that I will be successful, so that I will be able to teach in the future. And I need money as well, because as an angel investor, I need money. So yeah, because I know the final goal as when I'm 60 or 70 or 80 or something. So yeah, I know the final destination. So I just need to try to get there. So that's my mission.
Gina?
I ask, Koko, what's your self-love journey? I'm curious.
Self-love?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but people sometimes say like, because my Instagram is all about my face because I do face yoga business, and then some people say, "Oh, you are always about me, 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 me," and sometimes I get discouraged. But then my business is face yoga, so I have to show my face,
But
and
just because you show your face doesn't mean that you're all about you, though. I mean, you're helping people, you're showing your face so that you can be example for them.
right. I
Is
hope
there
so.
something else about, I'm just asking, I want to ask another question, but is there something else about your social media that gives the impression that you're only focused on yourself? You only take pictures of yourself, there are no other people, anything like that?
Well, I do sometimes. I used to take pictures with other people pre-COVID, but now everything is I cannot meet people in person anymore easily. So yeah, but
I'm just curious because I'm about to go in a whole total different direction. But I was having this conversation with the guy the other day, and he was like, Sharifa, you are just so self-centered. Everything is about you. It's just I. There's no like we. And I'm like, okay, but I can only speak for me. I know what I like. I know what I want. I can't begin to assume what you want. But when I get a better idea of who you are and what you want, then maybe I might be able to speak for us, but my focus is on me. That's really why I was asking that question. I see you nodding, Dr. Shakina. I love your thoughts.
Yes. Well, the whole process here is loving ourselves and then showing the world what that means to love ourselves. So we have to focus on ourselves. And I think when Coco mentioned that someone had said that she was too focused on herself, I think that's also very cultural, because other cultures want you to focus on the other, the whole rather than oneself. And this is an individual journey, but it's also a collective journey. So we are all a part of a collective archetype. So when Gina was talking about working with clients and they were saying that, oh, you're like me, or, that I experienced that, that's because we're within a collective archetypal space. But within that collective archetype, we have our own individual archetypes, and we are very unique within that. And that's where we bring our own gifts to the world. And if loving ourselves is the gift to the world, then so be it. Yeah, love yourself as much as you can, because other people will see that and understand how to love themselves, because they're ultimately connected to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Gina, you were agreeing as well?
Yeah, I really believe that. And I grew up with my mum. If she says, oh, he loves himself, he does, or she loves herself, that's like a negative thing. And so sometimes, like, I've been a self-love mentor for quite a few years now, and sometimes she still says it, like, oh, he loves himself a bit too much. And I'm like, oh, loves himself a bit too much, does he, mum? And she's like, oh, no, I didn't mean it like that. That was kind of like a negative connotation for me growing up. But I believe that self-love is self-full and not selfish, because it's a vibration. And when you feel good about yourself and about your body and about your life and you love everything, that's what people feel. And yes, it sometimes triggers people. Sometimes I get people on social media saying, you know, I'm narcissistic, or sometimes I get people saying that I show too many emotions and I should be medicated and I've got bipolar. And I'm like, no, this is the feminine. Like, I've worked a lot of years to have emotions, to be honest. And I'm actually really proud of how I can be crying 1 minute and ecstatic the next, and both at the same time. So
I think people toss that word around too much. Like, I'm so tired of people. Everybody's narcissistic. You're narcissistic. You're not. It's like you cannot just label everyone narcissistic because of the behavior. You know, I think that's just too much. Too much. Dr. Shakina, are you seeing that word come up more often?
So I'm going to give you a little bit of background about narcissism and that label. So typically there is a real narcissistic condition, and that's somebody who loves themselves but is not a real love. It's sort of a superficial love. And people who are truly narcissistic didn't quite get what they needed as children, and they haven't grown past that. So it's like a armoring, it's like a shell. And so yes, I'm seeing that, but I think you're right. The word narcissism is being thrown around a lot, and yes, we need to get in touch with our true emotions, and we need to love ourselves, and we need to be called out when we're not understanding that our behavior affects the whole, you know, our environment. And I think some people who are narcissistic, they have certain behaviors that are harming other people, and they're not willing to look at that. So Gina, I don't think that you're narcissistic at all. I think you really are, you know, just expressing what the divine feminine does. And you're being an example for other women. And women especially need to group together right now, because the divine feminine is rising, literally rising right now. That's an energetic fact. There was another thing. Oh, and the fact that sometimes family members will say things like, oh, she loves herself too much, or he loves himself too much. That's a lineage. That's pain from our lineage. It's been carried on from great grandmother to mother to daughter. And that's something that we have to break as women, for sure. And men too. The divine masculine is starting to rise, and they're understanding that what's been going on in the world for centuries is going to have to change, and that they're going to have to rise up to meet the divine feminine, and in turn heal their lineage wounds about how males need to be, right? And I can
But
go
also,
but I'll stop there.
No, it's fine. It's very interesting. I think part of it, and this is just me, and I always tell people, and I'll put this disclaimer out there, I have absolutely no degrees in absolutely anything. The only school I graduated from was the School of Hard Knocks. So, you know, without that, I'm not going to give medical opinions, but I think it's part of society where society taught us to fit in. Society taught us to be like everyone else, to look like everyone else, to talk like everyone else. And so if you did something that was different, it's like, okay, you love yourself, you standing out, you're trying to be different, and different was a bad thing. What I'm seeing right now is more people who are saying, you know what, I love me, just like Gina was saying, I love me, whatever that looks like, whoever I look like. And even for me as a person, at 45, I'll be 45 in March, I'm finally getting to that point where I'm like, however I am, whatever I want to do, I just love me. And I'm a lot more freer in the decisions that I've decided to make. Like my birthday party is on the 31st of March. I took out a press release and invited everyone in the world. So I hope you ladies will come to my birthday party. But people were like, Sharifa, like you're 45, you know what I mean? It's a Zoom birthday party. Why are you doing all this? And I was like, that's what I want to do. And I'm okay with that. Does that make sense?
You're celebrating who you are, absolutely. And you have a PhD in life. So
Thank
remember
you.
that.
I received that, Dr. Shakina. I received that. Yes. Gina, you were going to say something.
I can't remember what I was going to say, but I just love this conversation. Honestly, like I've got a page of notes from you all, and
but
isn't
it freeing? Isn't it freeing?
This is what the world needs. And just like, yeah, this is me. I don't know everything. I don't pretend to know everything, but I do know some things. And if I know something, I'll share it with you. So,
but it's freedom in like doing, people think, or people say, oh, I do what I want to do. Like that's always been a negative. I do what I want to do. And I always tell people I can be self-centered My daughter and I, my daughter's 26 now. We have this little joke, this little meme that we pass around, and I first sent it to her and she says it applies to me, but it's, I'm not spoiled, I'm loved. And people, because my daughter especially, if people like, she is so spoiled, I'm like, no, she's loved. And I say, I may be spoiled and I know I'm spoiled, but I'm not selfish. And I see a difference in those words. I expect the world, but I'm that kind of person. Whatever you want, whatever you need, I will give you the world in return. And I don't see anything wrong with that.
Me neither. Yeah, we need to share. I think people just don't own their desires enough and don't say that deeper thing that they really want. And I spent most of my life not speaking up. I actually used to be kind of a mute at school because I got so many limiting beliefs and so many like mean girl negative self-talk going on that I just decided, right, nobody's interested in what I'm going to say. I'm not intelligent. I'm just a number, and I'm just gonna not say anything.
In culture, there's a belief that if you damage yourself, if you don't cherish yourself, you are like treating a present from your parents very badly. For example, you get some ring or something from your parents. Let's say this is my mother's ring, and then would you like really damage this? You would really cherish it, take care of it, right? Because that's an important gift from your parents. So this ring is like me. I am a gift or product from my parents because my parents brought me up. they gave a birth of me, and then they grew me up. So I'm like a present product of my parents. So if you damage yourself, it's like damage your important gift from your parents. So doesn't make sense.
Yes, I agree. Dr. Shakina, you were going to say something?
I don't remember what I was going to say, but what Koko just described is just really honoring our parents and honoring the lineage behind us. So there's family constellations work that some people do that's actually excellent, and I highly recommend it, where you just honor the lineage on both sides, all the way back, all your grandparents, great-grandparents, and just really, in honoring them, you're honoring yourself, and start to forgive. And that's part of soul purpose work, is starting to forgive any damage that was done, lineage or otherwise, and then that you heal those before you and those behind you as you heal yourself. And it's really, really fantastic.
One of the things that I definitely agree with you, Dr. Shakina, but one of the things that Gina said that stood out to me is this whole idea of being mute. And I think that's also generational, because generations prior to us had this philosophy that children are to be seen and not heard. And that was one of the most difficult aspects for me when I was raising my children, because my parents said, you're trying to be your child's friend as opposed to your child's parent. And then I was like, it's not about being their parent or being their friend. It's that when you take away a child's voice, you take away their right to say no. You take away their right to state their opinion. And I think that's so detrimental in children, but especially in women, because we have so many instances where we want to say no, but our lineage, like you said, Dr. Shakina, says, nope, I can't say anything. Have you found that to be true?
Absolutely. Well, finding one's soul purpose helps us get back to when we were really young and we knew who we were before we were indoctrinated and we had to, stop speaking or be like other people. So yes, when children are young, they know exactly who they are. And so encouraging that and letting them have the freedom to be exactly who they are is very important. The other thing I wanted to say is society in general is often afraid of what they don't understand. Mm-hmm. Right? So more education is so important. And to forgive people who come across, abrupt and say you like yourself too much or don't speak about that. Just understand that they haven't developed enough to know their own soul purpose and that they came from a family that did the same thing to them. And that at some point we have to stop passing down things that aren't working. And I think that's what this process that we've been going through for the last year is all about. It's about ascension. It's about ascending out of these damaging behaviors and starting to love everybody for who they are and to support them.
Yes, I think that's beautiful. Now we are coming down to the last few minutes of the show. And what I love to do at the end of every show is just simply allow my guests the opportunity to speak directly to the audience, to everyone who is watching this show live, as well as everyone who is watching it in the archives, and let them know what you want them to take away from your appearance here today. And we're going to start with you, Koko.
Well, one thing is a tongue posture. We talked when your face is resting. It really not just the anti-aging thing, but it brings up your mood because facial muscles and the brain are so connected. When the face is lifted, your brain feels a little bit more positive and lifted too because it's so close to each other. That's one thing. But as another thing, as an entrepreneur, and especially if you're female, and if you're a minority, and then use it as a advantage. They're not disadvantage at all.
Yes, I think that's very powerful. Gina.
Yeah, let's see. I just really want to say to anybody watching this, if you are not getting the results that you really want, that you really desire, not just, yeah, I'm doing okay. Like if you're not lit on fire, then come back to self-love. Come give yourself some spaciousness. Clear out your home, your computer, your phone. Give yourself some time. And in that space is when we get to feel the real us. Sometimes you might hear a message or you might feel something. And yeah, self-love starts with clearing out what you don't want. So you've got space for the love to come in.
I think that is powerful as well. Thank you for that, Gina. Dr. Shakina.
My last message is believe in yourself. And if you need help, reach out and ask for it. Find people in your life that can help you. And always remember that you're loved. You're loved unconditionally.
Yes, love is what the world needs now with everything going on. And I agree with Dr. Shakina. The extension is reminding everyone that we're all connected, we're all one, and all we need is love. I want to thank you all for being guests on today's episode of the Roundtable Talk Show. And I especially want to thank everyone who tuned in to watch the show live, as well as everyone who is watching it in the archives. But please, I always ask the same thing. Don't just watch the show. Don't just share the show. I definitely appreciate that. But please support our guests. Our guests came here this morning to give you information, to share their journeys, to share their stories. So please support them. Visit their websites. The link is in the Facebook post. Follow them on social media. See what Koko's up to. See what Gina's antics are. Learn from Dr. Shakina. And when you reach out to them, please let them know Sharifa Hardy says hi. Now, if you're interested in more ways that I can help your business, or maybe you want to be a guest on the Roundtable Talk Show, please visit our website at AskSharifa.com. Until tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Pacific, everyone have a safe and a blessed day. Bye now.